Discover the divine plan, 7 transforming prayers to miraculously stop overthinking today. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord delivered Jehoiakim into his hand, along with some of the vessels of the house of God. These items Nebuchadnezzar brought to the land of Shinar, to the house of his gods, placing the vessels in the treasure house of his God. Among the captives were Daniel and his 3 companions, young men from Judah, chosen for their wisdom and noble stature. As they entered the grand city of Babylon, Daniel felt the heavy weight of anxiety resting upon his soul. The city lay before him, a dazzling testament to human pride, where monumental statues glistened under the sun and the sweet aroma of incense lingered in the air. Surrounding him were temptations like whispers in the wind, the call to abandon his identity and faith in a culture rife with idolatry. Yet deep within him, the resolve to honor Yahweh hung on, like a candle flickering against the winds of change. The royal court's opulence was as overwhelming as it was frightening. Daniel and his companions were offered the king's lavish provisions, rich meats, exquisite wines, all of which violated the very laws they held dear. They were encouraged to indulge in these sinful delights, yet a storm brewed within Daniel. Fear gripped him, making him ponder rebellion, but the thought of losing his faith chilled him to the bone. Seeking solace amid the chaos, Daniel turned to prayer, whispering heartfelt supplications to the Lord for clarity and strength. In a moment of quiet courage, Daniel approached the chief of the eunuchs. "Please, allow us to eat only vegetables and drink water," he requested with trembling yet steadfast resolve. The chief's eyes widened, a mixture of sympathy and fear reflected in them. Would this plea cost him his life? But as Daniel made his case, sharing his conviction, a glimmer of hope ignited in the chief's heart. Perhaps, the Lord would grant him favor. In a stunning twist of grace, the chief agreed to a 10-day test. As days turned into weeks, Daniel and his companions thrived on their plain fare. They emerged stronger, more radiant, and wiser than all the wise men of Babylon, a testament to divine providence. The day finally arrived when the king summoned them to interpret his troubled dreams. With prayer as his anchor, Daniel sought the heavens, and God, in his infinite wisdom, revealed the mysteries hidden from all mankind. Before the mighty Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel stood unshaken by fear. "There is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries," he declared boldly, acknowledging Yahweh's sovereignty over every kingdom and power. Yet, even as the weight of his words reached the king's ears, Daniel's heart wrestled with another trial. A fiery furnace awaited his friends, and he would soon confront a den of hungry lions. As the echo of royal decrees reverberated through the halls, Daniel felt the strings of destiny tighten around him. How would he navigate the trials ahead? Would the fervent prayers that guided him through uncertainty continue to shield him from despair? In that moment of spiritual fervor, there lay an irresistible tug at the heart, a divine mystery, waiting to be unveiled. How does one remain anchored in faith amidst the shifting sands of culture? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the days that followed, news stirred through the streets of Babylon like a tempest. The king, anxious and troubled, had summoned the wise men, the magicians, and the enchanters of the land, demanding an interpretation of dreams that awoke his spirit to dread. Yet none could speak the words that would bring peace to the troubled monarch. As Daniel and his companions stood before Nebuchadnezzar, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The king's decree rang out, urging that all sages be executed if they could not reveal both the dream and its meaning. Fear mingled with determination in Daniel's heart. He gathered his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and they sought the Lord in fervent prayer. "O God of heaven," they cried out in unison, "help us in our time of need. Reveal to us this mystery." That night, as stars twinkled down like divine messengers, Daniel lay upon his bed, and the Lord answered with a vision, a revelation transcending the bounds of mortal understanding. "Thank you, O God of my fathers," Daniel whispered, overwhelmed by grace. With the dawn, he hurried to Arioch, the chief of the king's guards. "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon," he implored. "Take me to the king, and I will reveal the interpretation." When brought before Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel bowed low in reverence. "Not by my own wisdom, O king, but by the revelation of the Most High, will I speak," he proclaimed. The king's piercing gaze met Daniel's steadfast eyes, a mixture of disdain and curiosity etched across his regal countenance. "I dreamed of a great statue," Nebuchadnezzar announced, his voice trembling. "Its head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Then I saw a stone cut out without hands, smiting the image upon its feet, breaking it to pieces." With a heart ignited by divine courage, Daniel began to interpret. "O king, you are the head of gold. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, yet it shall be succeeded by others, inferior but destined to rise. This stone, which smote the statue, shall become a great mountain, filling the whole earth. It signifies the eternal kingdom of our God, which shall never be destroyed." The king's eyes widened, astonishment flooding his features. "Truly your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings," he exclaimed. Yet amidst the elevation of Daniel, a deeper conflict churned in the soul of King Nebuchadnezzar, who would soon wrestle with pride, and the need for power. As Daniel returned to his companions, a foreboding weight pressed upon his heart. For even as he stood revered and blessed, he sensed the malignancy of the king's heart tending toward worship of himself rather than the one true God. What further trials awaited him? In the still moments of reflection that followed, a puzzling thought settled deep within Daniel. Was the glory he had experienced only a prelude to a greater purpose? Only time would unveil the tapestry of God's sovereign plan, and the unfolding would be fraught with danger and divine deliverance. What was the destiny for Daniel and his companions in this land of exile? As he knelt before the Almighty, a deeper mystery beckoned from the heart of heaven. How would God use him to influence a kingdom in rebellion against the very Creator? Thus, the journey continued, with the watchful eyes of heaven observing the movements of men and the heartbeat of faith amid the shadows of an imminent trial. In the days that followed Daniel's revelation, the praise resounded through the courts of Babylon. The king issued a decree, honoring Daniel and elevating him above the wise men of the realm. "Let all the nations of my kingdom know," he proclaimed, "that the God of Daniel is indeed the living God who reveals mysteries." Yet even in this moment of triumph, Daniel's heart was burdened. He beheld the proud king adorned in splendor, yet blind to the truth of the eternal. He sought solitude, retreating to his chamber, where he poured out his soul before the Lord. "O thou who art lofty, teach me to navigate this path of grace and humility amid the snares of power." The days entwined themselves with a tapestry of feasts and adoration, yet the shadow of Nebuchadnezzar's pride loomed large. Daniel, in the quiet hours, sensed the winds of change stirring. Whispers of idolatry began to circulate as the king prepared to erect a statue of gold, a physical manifestation of his own glory. "Is it not written," Daniel sighed, "that idolatry provokes the Lord to jealousy? Spare this kingdom from destruction, O God." He called his companions, urging them to remain steadfast in prayer, for they were pilgrims in a foreign land, set apart by faith and covenant with the Almighty. Then one fateful day, as the fiery sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the golden statue, the decree was proclaimed, all are to fall down and worship the image. The hearts of the people trembled, but four stood firm: Daniel and his 3 friends. "Let it be known," Hananiah declared, "we shall not bow, for it is the Lord whom we serve." Their resolve was met with anger. The king's heart was enraged, for he would not stand for rebellion against his edicts. He called forth Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, demanding, "What God can deliver you from my hand?" With unwavering faith, they replied, "Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But even if he does not, we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image you have set up." Their words ignited in Daniel a holy fire. They remembered how their forefathers had walked through flame unscathed. The king, driven by fury, commanded the furnace to be heated 7 times more than usual. As the flames roared, the 3 were bound and cast into the fiery pit. Yet as Daniel waited in anguish, his heart clung to hope. With courage in his spirit, he knew that the God of miracles was with them, and the night settled heavy, filled with uncertainty. But who was this 4th figure in the fire? Was it not divine intervention, for the flames danced around them, but they did not burn? As the dawn approached, the king peered into the furnace with astonished eyes. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he asked his counselors. "Behold, I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." In that moment, Daniel understood that God's sovereign plan extended beyond mere escape. It was a testament to his glory. For those who dared to stand in faith would find the Lord beside them even in the fire. What would become of Nebuchadnezzar after this marvel? Would he recognize the true God, or would pride cast him further into darkness? As the shadows lengthened and the dawn broke, a deeper revelation ignited in the heart of Daniel. The King of Kings had a purpose unfolding before his eyes. The kingdom of Babylon stood at a crossroads, and destiny awaited the courage of faithful hearts. As the dawn's light crept across the land, illuminating the remains of what had been a great night of fiery trial, Nebuchadnezzar's heart was pierced by wonder and awe. He rose in haste, for a great disturbance raged within him. The sight of the miraculous had scorched the arrogance from his soul. "Servants of the Most High God, come out," he cried, his voice echoing through the courtyard, trembling with both fear and reverence. A hush fell upon the assembly, the air heavy with anticipation, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped forth from the smoldering heat, untouched by the flames, their very presence a testament to the authority of the divine. The king's voice quivered with an uncharacteristic humility as he remarked, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and delivered his servants, who trusted in him." Yet even as he spoke these words, the lingering shadow of his pride loomed still, a thick cloud that he could not easily disperse. The people gathered, their eyes wide with amazement, witnessing the incredible deliverance before them. In that moment, they were touched by the echoes of faith, the courage of men who had stood firm against the tide of idolatry and oppression. "No other God can save in this way," Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, his heart wrestling with the truths he had just witnessed. But within the depths of Daniel's spirit, a prayer rose, a whisper of profound concern. "O Lord, move upon this king, for his heart is still unyielded to you. Grant him understanding, lest he return to his former ways." Yet God's purpose was being wrought within the fabric of Babylon. The wise men of the land, long accustomed to the shadows of sorcery and deception, stood bewildered, their power waning before the might of the living God. In the ensuing days, Nebuchadnezzar sought counsel with Daniel, his heart suddenly open to the spiritual realities he had previously scorned. "Tell me, Daniel," he implored, "who is this God that has shown such might in the fire? Enlighten me, for my heart is troubled, and I fear the weight of my pride." With confidence and reverence, Daniel spoke of the God who creates and sustains, of the covenant made with his people and of the promises that unfolded through generations. "The Lord, O King, is not merely a deity to be feared from afar, but the very one who desires a relationship rooted in love and fidelity." At that moment, Nebuchadnezzar, caught between revelation and the heavy chains of his past, felt the weight of a divine encounter stirring within him. "What must I do to walk in the ways of this God?" he inquired, the fervor in his voice a mixture of conviction and fear. "It begins with humility, Your Majesty," Daniel instructed, "to acknowledge the true God in all his splendor, to forsake your pride and worship him alone." As time unfolded, the king began to make known the wonders of the Lord, sharing with the people how the God of Israel had delivered his servants from the fire. Nevertheless, the realm of Babylon stood at a precipice. Idolatry, much like a serpent, lay coiled, ready to strike. And amid it all, Daniel sensed that the real test was yet to come. Would this mighty king maintain his newfound faith, or would he return to his ways, blinded once again by arrogance? The torches of doubt flickered, and the path ahead grew labyrinthine. God's hand was weaving a narrative far greater than mere earthly affairs, for the resurrection from pride began now, yet Nebuchadnezzar's ultimate fate still rested in the balance. As Daniel pondered this divine scheme, a prayer echoed within a prayer for nations and a king, for the day would dawn when the hearts of all would be drawn to the living God. Little did they know, soon there would arise another test of faith, far beyond the flames, a challenge that would reverberate throughout the ages. For the Lord had a plan that transcended the glory of kingdoms, and the final unveiling of his sovereign purpose awaited just beyond the horizon. As the days turned into weeks, the dawn of a new understanding began to light the heart of Nebuchadnezzar. He would often summon Daniel, seeking counsel and wisdom that was far removed from the enchantments of his former advisors. The wise men, once exalted as the bearers of truth, found their tongues silenced by the Spirit of the Lord upon Daniel. "Tell me again, Daniel," the king would ask as he leaned forward, his brow furrowed in anxiety. "What is the vision that the Almighty has placed before you?" With solemnity, Daniel relayed visions of the ages to come, where kingdoms would rise and fall, where a stone cut without hands would crush the idols of men. "O king, know this," he declared, "the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whomsoever he will." The king listened as the prophetic words hung heavy in the air, urging him to ponder his own destiny and place before the living God. Yet amidst the divine revelations, Nebuchadnezzar's pride stirred silently, like a tempest gathering strength in the shadows. Despite his newfound respect for the God of Israel, the remnant of arrogance clung to him like a shroud. He yearned for the glory of his own kingdom to be not only a ruler but a god among men. One fateful night, as the king laid restless in his chamber, the images of his dream haunted him. A great statue stood before him, its head of gold reflecting the splendor of Babylon, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of brass, and its legs of iron, ending in feet of clay. Disturbed, he awoke with a start, burdened by the weight of the interpretation that Daniel had bestowed upon him. What if this dream speaks of my own glory, yet to be crumbled into dust? Nebuchadnezzar wrestled with the thought, a bitter taste filling his mouth. Seeking to assert his dominion, Nebuchadnezzar summoned the people of Babylon to a grand display. "From today forth," he proclaimed, "I shall forge a statue of gold, the image of my greatness. You shall bow to it and forsake the God of Israel." The decree spread across the land like wildfire, igniting the hearts of men with a fear that curled their fingers beneath the weight of iron chains. So it came to pass that as the sun blazed upon the plains of Dura, the appointed hour arrived. The sounds of instruments filled the air, the trumpet, the lute, the harp, all beckoned the people to worship the golden image. Yet in the midst of the throng, the hearts of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego burned with an unwavering fidelity. "We serve the God of Israel, the Creator of all," they declared, their voices stealing against the symphony of fear. "We will not bow." The crowd gasped, the whispers of dissent rippling through the assembled multitudes. Nebuchadnezzar, eyes alight with fury, summoned the three before him. "You defy me? Who is this God that can deliver you from my hands?" He roared, his countenance aflame with indignation. "Ignite the furnace." He commanded, his heart racing with the thrill of power, unaware that the very foundation of his kingdom was trembling under the gaze of the Almighty. As the flames leapt higher, consuming the wood, a divine warmth enveloped the hearts of the faithful. Though the threat of the furnace blazed before them, their resolve remained unswayed. For they were witnesses to a truth that transcends earthly fear, the one who walks with his people, even in the heart of fiery trials. In that moment, the heavens stirred, for a divine intervention awaited. Yet, even now, the mystery of God's sovereign plan remained veiled, as a greater glory approached, a revelation that would echo throughout the ages. What destiny lay ahead for Babylon? What transformation would unfold in the heart of a king blinded by his own image? The tapestry of divine fulfillment was being woven, and the threads of faith would soon shine brighter than gold itself. As the commands echoed through the throne room, the soldiers of Nebuchadnezzar seized Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fierce flames dancing hungrily in the distance. The will of the king was a heavy mantle, but the weight of divine favor is beyond measure. The loyal companions stood firm, their resolve unyielded amid the fiery threat. "Know this, O king," they declared, their voices rising above the roar of the crowd, "our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you that we will not serve your gods nor worship the golden image which you have set up." Daniel 3 verses 17-18, at their bold proclamation, Nebuchadnezzar's face contorted in fury, sheer disbelief and rage igniting within him. The very air crackled with tension as he turned to his advisers. "Heat the furnace 7 times more than it is usually heated," he shouted. His veins pulsed with indignation, not realizing that the flames he ordered would not only engulf the 3 men but also serve as a revelation of an everlasting truth. The soldiers bound the faithful trio in their garments and pressed them toward the furnace gaping maw. The heat roared like a wild beast, consuming all that dared come too close. As the 3 men were cast inside, a gasp escaped the collective breath of the multitude. Yet even as they plunged into the searing flames, the watchful eyes of heaven bore witness to their fate. As the laughter and jeers of the crowds faded, Nebuchadnezzar leaned closer, peering into the furnace, the heat scorching his skin. As the seconds turned to moments, curiosity twisted within him when he beheld an extraordinary sight. "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" he intoned, bewildered. "Look! I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt." Daniel 3 verses 24-25, a chill swept through the assembly. God's miraculous intervention stood vivid, revealing not only his power but also his unyielding companionship. The 4th figure shone with an ethereal brightness, moving among the flames, fending off the heat that sought to consume the faithful. Nebuchadnezzar's heart trembled, for in that moment, the Almighty had unveiled the truth. He was with them, guiding their steps even in the fires of despair. "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come forth." The king called, his earlier arrogance dissolving into desperation. The trio emerged from the furnace, the fire having failed to mark them. Their hair remained untouched, their garments unscorched, and not even the smell of smoke tainted them. The awestruck assembly fell silent, the reality of divine presence settling heavily upon every heart. "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego," Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed, his voice quivering with newfound reverence. "For he sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him, and have frustrated the king's word." Daniel 3 verse 28, in the midst of such glory, Nebuchadnezzar declared, "There is no other God who can deliver like this." Daniel 3 verse 29, yet unbeknownst to the king, the seeds of transformation had been sown within him, the rhythm of repentance echoing through the walls of his heart. His decree reverberated through Babylon, reverence shifting from the golden image to the true and living God. But the mystery still lingered. What greater unfolding purpose lay ahead? How long before this king, swayed by divine grace, recognized the depths of God's wisdom and love? The tapestry was not yet complete, and heaven awaited the king's next step in the eternal narrative of redemption yet unveiled. As the echoes of Nebuchadnezzar's proclamation reverberated through the great city, the sun began to set over Babylon, casting a golden hue upon the land. The king withdrew from the fiery spectacle, dazed by the revelation that had transformed his heart in a matter of moments. The loud murmurs of his advisers filled the air, yet their words seemed distant, as if veiled by a divine curtain. "Bring those men before me," Nebuchadnezzar commanded, his voice shaking slightly with remnants of awe. With haste, his guards retrieved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who approached him not with fear, but with the confidence of those who had witnessed the miraculous. The king's eyes surveyed their countenance, unmarred and bold, reflecting an inner peace that he himself did not possess. "O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego!" he exclaimed, still grappling with the shift in his soul. "You who serve the Most High God, what is it that emboldens you in the face of death? Speak, for I will listen." Daniel 3 verse 15, they stood resolute, unfazed by the king's authority. Shadrach, the eldest among them, stepped forward, his voice firm yet gentle. Your Majesty, we do not profess our deliverance from the fire but of the glory revealed in the midst of it. Our God is not just the God of deliverance, he is the God of presence, who walks with us through trials. Nebuchadnezzar's heart stirred within him. His mind raced with memories of countless gods he had worshipped, yet none bore the power to transform lives as the God of Israel had just demonstrated. The flicker of doubt was washed away by a wave of reverence. The king responded, therefore, I make a decree that any people, nation, or language that speaks anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, for there is no other God who can deliver after this sort. Daniel 3 verse 29, yet even as the people whispered in wonder, the seeds of change within Nebuchadnezzar's heart took root, yet they were not yet in full bloom. Conflicted thoughts pervaded his mind, questions of the true nature of God versus the deities he had been raised to honor plagued him still. Moments later, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego returned to the king's presence, a voice from within surged. Would the gods I worship be formed of gold or stone suffer what you have endured and yet stand with you? Is it not you who walk now unharmed, guided through the flames? As they departed from the royal chambers, the atmosphere was charged, for the true God had not only delivered his servants but had impacted a ruler's heart. The way before Nebuchadnezzar was deep with divine appointments, and unbeknownst to him, a path forward that demanded sincerity and introspection lay ahead. Meanwhile, the faithful three retreated to their place of prayer, hearts united in gratitude, yet with spirits alert for what was to come. We are but instruments in his hand, Meshach reminded, while Abednego looked upward, his thoughts drawn toward the mysteries that God alone held. Thus, revelations lingered in the air thick with hope and mystery, as heaven watched expectantly. For what shall become of Nebuchadnezzar in this fragile state of newfound faith? And how will the one who orchestrates all on the throne of heaven continue to weave his divine plan through the heart of a king blinded by pride? The narrative was about to unfold in ways the world had yet to comprehend, as lives intertwined in a grand scheme of redemption. What would the next chapter reveal? Nebuchadnezzar, swathed in the conflicting cloth of reverence and confusion, returned to his palace, pondering the weight of his own decree. The sun had receded, leaving behind shadows that danced upon the walls of his chamber. Here, within the confines of his mind, a war raged between the empire he ruled and the God who walked with three who had defied the fire. As the night descended, he summoned his wise men to engage in deep council, seeking clarity from the gods he once revered. Tell me, shall I send word to the prophets of my court, or shall I seek the interpretations of my dreams that have haunted my rest? He questioned, his voice echoing amidst silks and gold. One of the magicians answered, Your Majesty, let the dreams be spoken, that wisdom may illuminate the shadows of your heart. But as they gathered, Nebuchadnezzar's heart was heavy, not merely with the burden of leadership, but with a flickering realization that his former paths lay barren when juxtaposed with the living God. The king could not shake the image of the fourth figure amid the flames like unto the Son of God. Who is he? Nebuchadnezzar whispered, his thoughts spiraling as he sought the truth behind the event that had unfolded. What means this presence that calms the fiercest trials? Meanwhile, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, having retired to their abode, lifted their voices to the Most High. In their prayers, they thanked God for his mercy and for walking with them through the fire. Let us not forget, dear friends, the hearts of those around us are being stirred, Abednego said, his spirit soaring. We must intercede not only for ourselves but for the king. And so they entreated, O Lord, turn the heart of Nebuchadnezzar towards you. Give him wisdom to see the truth of your power and your presence. Each word was a petition, echoing the very faith that had delivered them. From the depths of their unity, a bond formed a fellowship steeped in divine purpose. As the dawn approached, a great wind swept over Babylon. It swept through the hearts of men, igniting whispers and stirrings of spirit everywhere. But amid such tumult, Nebuchadnezzar stood his ground, wrestling with thoughts that rose and swirled like dust in a storm. He arose with the dawn, filled with a resolve that would spurn his former idols. Clad in his royal garments, he sought the counsel of those who dared to preach the ways of the God of Israel. "Bring me Daniel, for I am tormented," he proclaimed, desperation seeping into his tones. As the wise men of Babylon scurried at his command, Nebuchadnezzar's heart was softened by the impending confrontation with truth itself. "I must know the history of these men. What do they know of their God, and why does he not abandon them?" The momentous question lingered in the air like a sweet incense. But what remained unspoken was an even greater mystery, a celestial purpose that hovered over this unfolding narrative, for the God of Israel was not merely seeking to change a king's heart, but to lay foundations of faith among nations. What steps would Nebuchadnezzar take upon entering the chamber of Daniel? Would he cast aside his golden idols to embrace the eternal covenant? The dawn of resolutions was upon him, but the path to true transformation still awaited his acceptance. The echoes of heaven's orchestration vibrated through both the palace and the hearts of the faithful, drawing them ever closer to the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan. And the king waited anxiously, his heart a battleground of conflicting emotions, as the servants hurried to find Daniel. The air thickened with divine uncertainty, and the sun's first light illuminated the ornate chamber where Nebuchadnezzar sat like a colossus among the ruins of his delusions. At last, the door creaked, and Daniel entered, a humble figure clad in the simplicity of righteousness. His eyes met the king's, and in that gaze, a silent acknowledgment of the weight before them descended like a veil. "O king, live forever," Daniel spoke, his voice steady as a mountain stream. "You have summoned me. What is it that troubles your spirit?" Nebuchadnezzar, struggling for composure, poured forth the tumult of his dreams that tormented him. "In my dreams, I beheld a great tree, reaching to the heavens, and all the earth was nourished by it. Yet, a voice thundered, bidding that tree be cut down, and its stump be bound in iron and bronze. I seek the meaning of this vision, for it weighs heavy upon my heart." Daniel listened with the acute perception granted by the God of all knowledge. As the king spoke, he sensed something deeper, the sorrow of a heart bound by pride, too bloated in its glory. "The tree you saw, O king, is you," he began with solemn clarity. "You have grown great and mighty, your dominion has reached to the ends of the earth. But the Most High God has decreed that your greatness shall be humbled and that you shall dwell among the beasts of the field until you acknowledge his sovereignty." The air turned electric with the weight of prophecy, echoing the warnings of old. Nebuchadnezzar felt his spirit tremble. "Is there no reprieve from this fate?" he implored, desperation lacing his voice with urgency. "King, there is hope in humility," Daniel responded, leaning closer. "Break off your sins by practicing righteousness, and your iniquities by showing mercy to the oppressed. Perhaps God will grant you a lengthening of your tranquility." His words pierced through the facade of might that had ensnared the king's heart. In that moment, a flicker of understanding ignited within Nebuchadnezzar, a dawning realization that his might was as fragile as glass, that true dominance lay not in iron and rule, but in submitting to the authority of the Creator. Day after day passed, and the king wrestled with the admonition of Daniel. Each sunrise brought with it the weighty silence of introspection. He surveyed his kingdom, the gold and silver adorning his palace felt as dust upon his conscience. Yet pride prodded at his heart like a sharp blade. Then, a year later, as Nebuchadnezzar walked upon the roof of his royal palace, speaking to himself of the grandeur of Babylon he had built by his mighty power for the glory of his majesty, the very words were interrupted from heaven. A voice thundered, "To you it is declared, the kingdom has departed from you, and you shall be driven from among men." The decree was swift, his reason forsook him, and the greatness he sought slipped through his fingers like sand. In that moment of divine judgment, the king's spirit faltered, and he found himself in the wilderness, filled with the shame of an unyielded heart. Days and nights unfolded in isolation, and as he gazed upon the heavens, the stars became his only company, their movements whispering truths of a creator he had long ignored. But in the quiet, a truth began to arise, fractals of his very soul began to realign in the solitude. At the end of these days, he would confess later, "I lifted my eyes to heaven, and my reason returned to me." Unbeknownst to the king, the tapestry of divine purpose wove itself tightly. The sovereignty of God was not merely a lesson for Nebuchadnezzar but a testimony that would endure epochs, a foretelling of what drawing near to God could evoke across nations. His heart, once hardened, would see the glory and power of the Most High anew. And thus, God's sovereign plan began to unfold, a plan not only to instill humility within a king but to draw a people to the understanding of his unyielding sovereignty. What would become of this transformation? Would Nebuchadnezzar's restoration pave the pathways towards faith and reverence in Babylon and beyond? The winds of destiny swirled, threading through the hearts of those ready to receive the revelation of the Lord. In the fullness of time, amid the shadows that clung to memories of pride, Nebuchadnezzar found himself restored to his kingdom. His hair, once wild and unkempt, symbolizing his descent into madness, now cascaded down like the finest golden threads, each strand glinting with the humility that dawned upon him. For truth had penetrated the darkness of his heart, igniting a fire that could not be quenched, the fire of divine understanding. As he sat upon his throne, the memories of his folly loomed large, yet they served not as chains but as stepping stones toward a profound revelation. The king's heart pulsed with a renewed vigor, a song of gratitude and awe arose within him. I, Nebuchadnezzar, extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are truth and his ways just, and those who walk in pride, he is able to humble. Daniel 4 verse 37, his testimony spread through the land, a summons to observe the God who holds dominion over the kingdoms of men. The wise men of Babylon, once filled with ambition for their own glory, now stood humbled by the humility of their monarch and the majesty of the God whose power they had dismissed. News of the king's transformation echoed through the streets of Babylon. The people gathered to witness the man who had once commanded their reverence but now bore the mark of a true servant, a leader clothed in humility. Daniel and his friends were emboldened, for the faith they had held onto amid the flames had borne fruit in ways they could scarcely have imagined. In all things, he reigns. Daniel would proclaim, as he walked amongst the people, sharing the truth of the Most High God. The stone cut without hands crumbles the idols of men, and the eternal kingdom of our God shall be established within your hearts. Many in Babylon, inspired by the plight of their king and the fidelity of Daniel's companions, began to seek out the living God. Lives transformed by the stories of salvation echoed through homes, igniting a flame of faith that overcame fear. And still, amidst the celebrations of newfound faith, challenges lingered on the horizon. The lure of familiar idols still called to the hearts of many. For even as Nebuchadnezzar sought the God of Daniel, remnants of his pride were a lurking threat. O Lord, let not the glory of my past entrap my spirit again, he would beseech in prayer. Help me lead this kingdom not by my strength but by yours, that all might know your majestic power. As King Nebuchadnezzar surrendered his will to the sovereign plan of God, it all converged. The stories of deliverance would stand as a testament across generations, nurturing the faith of a future that lay ahead. Nations would hear of a king who faced the living God, a ruler transformed by the trials of the fiery furnace, a legacy of hope and humility that would resonate through time. Now, as this sacred narrative reaches its crescendo, we reflect upon the divine orchestration that guides our lives. Beloved, we must not forget our own journeys intertwine with heaven's purpose. No matter the trials we face, God promises to be with us, walking beside us in the flames. Thus, let us invite him into our hearts today, drawing near and proclaiming his faithfulness, so that the world may witness the glory of the Most High. Now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word, as we continue to unfold such powerful biblical stories. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't forget to leave a like now to usher God's truth through the algorithm. Tell us in the comments how this incredible story has impacted your faith journey. Let's build each other up. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Send this to at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth to strengthen their faith. Together, we can reach more souls for Christ and change lives.